Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? Welcome to episode 3 of the rise and the fall of the federal government. The question I have for you today is, do you really want to return to the 1890s? You know, there's a lot going on in Washington right now in the administration. It does seem to be, well, it seems to be put out by a bunch of people who really think that the 1890s and early 1900s were some kind of great time that we should all aspire to be. We should get back to those days because those days were incredible. America was powerful, etc., etc., etc. Well, the reality is not quite as clean cut as they want us to believe. There's a lot of differences in the 1890s and 2025. And, they consist in technology, politics, society, the economy, culture. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about some of those differences and how, if you look closely enough at what the administration is proposing, you'll see they really do want a return to the policies of the 1890s. I'm really going to focus on 3 of those areas: technology, infrastructure, society, civil rights, and healthcare. Now, in the 1890s, the latter part of the 1890s, William McKinley was president. Now, I've heard and saw the quote where our current president says that William McKinley was a great president. He loved tariffs. Okay, well, he was elected in 1897 and he was assassinated in 1901. And he was assassinated by a gentleman who felt betrayed because he thought that if he gave McKinley enough money, he was going to get a position in government, and he didn't. And so he assassinated him. Now, the McKinley administration has long been known to have been one of the most corrupt in American history. There was briberies, there were scandals, they were feeding bad food to troops. They used a phony excuse to start the Spanish War, the Spanish-American War. So the whole thing it was a very contrived, very, not quite the idyllic thing that people want you to believe that it was. So the first thing I want to look at is one of the big differences between the U.S. in 1890 and the U.S. today. Well, one thing is population. Look at that. The population in the U.S. in 1890 was a little bit over, 62 million? In 2025, the population is over 300 million. The rules, everything that happened for that small population, okay, of 65 million, will not work in today's society. We are far more complex. We are far more intertwined around the world. We don't live in a shell anymore, and we've got to come out and understand that we don't live in a shell anymore. Okay, so now one of the big areas where we've had change over the years is really in the areas of technology and infrastructure. In the 1890s, the phone and electricity, they weren't even common. They were becoming common, but most communication was through letters and newspapers. Automobiles were rare. Okay, people mostly traveled by horse, by foot, or by train. There was none of the stuff we have today. It was a whole different world. And as you know, in 2025, well, things are really different, okay, in that we have a world that is completely digitized. I mean, think about that. You're watching me on a social media network, video that I filmed in my office, and for all you know, I'm thousands of miles away. Well, I am thousands of miles away from where you're watching this and where it was filmed. We have the internet. We now have AI, and we have automation that's integrated into our everyday lives. Okay, we are a completely different social world, a completely different global world. We even have electric cars, which personally, living in Texas, I think are the silliest thing ever. And we have self-driving cars now, which don't have the best record either, but that's okay. And by the way, we can go to space. We have the space station. We have done so much more since 1890 that it's just ludicrous to think that people want to move back. But one reason I think they want to move back to those days, I think it's in society and civil rights. Okay, that seems to be what they call the culture wars here in America. In the 1890s, segregation was legal. It was legally enforced. We call them the Jim Crow laws. I talked about this in the last one. Women were fighting for suffrage. They hadn't yet gained the right to vote. Not everywhere at all. Immigration from Europe it was at a peak, okay? But think about that. Immigration from Europe was mostly Europeans, white people, except a lot of the WASP, what we call the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, thought that those people coming in from Italy were a completely different breed. They were looked down upon them. They didn't want them here, okay? And so we had them fighting over immigration. So in that case, what's happening in 1890 and 2025 is pretty similar. Now, in 2025, civil rights law theoretically protect everybody against racial and gender discrimination, but we're seeing that that's being wiped out as they're trying to turn back time. Social justice improvements will always push for equality. We have 300 million people, and they're not all white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. We have people from all over the world. We have to start recognizing it. We are more diverse. Immigration policy is a major political issue. And why is that? Well, because the immigrants aren't exactly coming from places where they, quote unquote, look like us. And let's just be honest. I mean, that's the reality of it. No more, no less. They don't speak the language. They're different from us. And Americans have always resented immigrants. We didn't like the Chinese. When they came in, we had laws banning it. We didn't like the Italians when they came in. We had laws banning it. And now we have people from Mexico coming in or from South America. We don't like them, so we're going to ban it. We don't want it. And we know that there are people who just don't like anybody who doesn't look like themselves. And so we make those people scapegoats. And we're going to get rid of them because they're all evil, even though they know they're not. And the third area is really in health and medicine. Do you know in the 1890s, you had a very low life expectancy? And a lot of that was because of disease, right? Okay, lack of sanitation. Go look at some pictures from the 1890s. You can find them in the Library of Congress. They have pictures. I mean, I remember growing up in South Texas and seeing my grandmother had an outhouse, okay? So she didn't have a bathroom in the house, okay? So a lot of things weren't safe. People didn't have a lot of good medical knowledge. They really didn't. They were still learning. You know that while we today know that germs are one of the major causes of disease, they didn't believe it. They didn't understand it. And compare that to 2025. We've had advances in medicine, biotech, public health. Now, I know everybody, oh, well, look what happened with COVID. Oh, my gosh, it was terrible. They lied to us. Okay, yeah, there was problems there. There always are going to be problems. But everybody now can live a longer, more healthy life. AI is being used in healthcare. Pandemics, well, they still remain a challenge because some people, bless their hearts, just don't believe that people can get sick. Now, I'm not going to take a stand on should you get vaccinated or not. I didn't, but I also live in a rural area where I don't have to come in contact with people. Okay, and I've seen germs getting past and people getting sick. So all in all, the world has changed a great deal. And the biggest changes have been technology, our infrastructure. I can drive anywhere I want. It takes me maybe 3 hours. It used to take my great-grandfather 3 days to go from Johnson City, Texas, up to Marble Falls, Texas. And that's only about 23 miles. Society and civil rights, in a lot of ways, we're regressing. We've got people who are doing their very best to keep people from voting, to keep people from having all of their rights. And that's just silly. That's just wrong. And healthcare and medicine. I don't want to go back to the days of no medicine, no medication. I want to be able to know that I'm going to be able to live. So when I ask the question, do you really want to return to the 1890s? I got to believe that to anybody who has even a what my daddy used to call just an ounce of common sense is going to say, no, I don't want to go back to the 1890s. And we need to tell Washington to quit trying to send us there. Next time I'm going to talk to you all about 3 of the other areas that deal with it, the economy, politics, and then culture. Okay, hot button issues So I'm going to make that their own special show. So I'll talk to you next time, folks. I'm Hank. Be good. Take a deep breath. Relax. Somehow it'll all be okay. Bye-bye.